much imperative for us to think about.
Sorry, Kwame. Please, with your permission, we'd like to start recording this session so that we can share with some of your other colleagues who will not be able to make it and yourself at the end of the session. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, Farouk, for that. Yes, so as I was saying, we are in a tech era and also at the same time in the information age. And so we are using technology day in, day out. A very practical example is this very training that we are on, which back in the day would have required us meeting at a physical location, just so we can go through with it. But we are in the times where all of this is possible. We are joining from various geographical locations, and thanks to technology, we are able to enjoy some of these tools, features, and then services. But with the potential of technology also comes, some risk with regards to our security and our safety whilst using these tools. And so as we are looking at how we can adopt and adapt and how we can benefit from technology, we also need to be wary and we also need to be cautious so that we are safe and we are not causing any harm to ourselves, to our organizations, and to the people around us. And so I'm going to begin by sharing my screen so that we can go through the slides to guide us through today's discussion. And my slides should be up by now. Okay.
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah, sure. So Farouk has already mentioned that this session will be a recorded one. And so we are likely going to share the recording with you afterwards. Throughout the session, we'll have some engagements and interactions, but kindly keep your microphones muted if you are not speaking or if you have not been invited to speak. Let's kindly take note of that. If you have any questions or comments, you can equally drop them in the chat or you can use the reactions on Zoom. Zoom has these reactions on your screen. You can just tap on it. You'll see a reactions icon. When you click on it, you see a reaction to raise your hand, to give a thumbs up if you agree with the point that is being made. So let's kindly make use of those reactions. And then so that we can save bandwidth, for everyone to enjoy the discussion and the presentation very well, let's kindly keep our cameras off, especially during the discussion. I believe at the tail end, we can all put on our cameras so that we can have a feel of each other. And then there is also going to be a post-evaluation survey that will be shared at the end of this training so that you can tell us how the training went for you, and we can also deduce how we can better present this training to you in the future. If you lose your internet connection, you can kindly reconnect with the same link that was shared with you. So thank you. Today's session is going to be very interactive. We want to have a discussion around it. So your experiences, your perspectives, whatever you have encountered whilst using technology, particularly with regards to securing yourself or using it in a safe way, will be welcomed. So let's all try and involve ourselves. So this is going to guide us through today's discussion. We are going to look at an introduction to information security, what we really mean by that term. And then we'll also look at the cybersecurity landscape, because it is important for us to understand certain terminologies, when it comes to cybersecurity. And then we're also going to look at some basic security principles and password management, which is also very important, because if your password is compromised, then your information is at risk. And then we'll look at one very important aspect of information security, that is phishing awareness, how we can identify a phishing email. And then lastly, we'll look at how we can handle our data and then protect ourselves as well. Okay, so I'm going to move on. And in the spirit of what I just mentioned for us to have an interactive session, I want us to start by putting ourselves into perspective and thinking about some of the information that we use in our work. Any kind of information at all that comes to mind that you use in your work. One example of it is financial information, but with you, it may be, a variety of information types and categories. So kindly just put in the chat some of the information you use on a day-to-day basis, what information you come across. Even today, what kind of information have you used? It is important for us to understand this because once we know the type of information that we use in our various organizations, then we can take measures to see how we can secure that kind of information. So kindly indulge me and let's put in the chat any kind of information that we use in our organizations or we use for our work. I'm still waiting. If you can hear me, you can just type the information that you use, any information at all. Okay, so I have health information of our beneficiaries, client data, very well, client and customers data. That is also very welcome. Can we have a little more as we move on? Educational information, for instance, as we are doing here today, we are going to make use of some educational information, through this training, and also some security information. Okay, so moving on. Another thing that we may want to put into perspective is what comes to mind when you hear information security. Before coming to this session, we all had our ideas and thoughts about information security, but what does it really tell us? What does information security, mean to us? You can put in the chat or you can simply raise your hand and then we will allow you to speak. What comes to mind when you hear information security? Can we have our first speaker? Okay, Sir David, you can go.
Okay, so thank you, Kwame. Happy to see you and be part of this meeting with my staff. Information security to me has to do with how do you generate, store, and manage information in a way that it will not be used in a negative sense to jeopardize your work and the reputation of your organization. Thank you.
Great. And that is very much on point. Thank you very much, Sir David. I also have in the chat from John how to protect our data we generate. That is also very true. And then I also have health information to promote. That is information that Yakubu also uses in her organization. Okay, so yes, that is true. When we talk about information security, we are talking about ways and means that we can, protect and safeguard the information that we use in our various organizations. It's easy for us to attribute all forms of information, when we mention information security, it's easy for us to attribute all that to the digital domain. But here, we are not only looking at the digital domain, but we are looking at biological information that exists in our heads, and then physical information that we may store physically in our organizations or in our office, in files and folders, for instance, and then the digital realm that is quite common with all of us. So some definition that we can take with us is that information security is protecting digital and non-digital information from unauthorized access, disclosure, disruption, modification, or distraction. So it's not only the digital aspect as we have on our devices or on our computers, but non-digital information as well that we have existing in our various organizations, which takes us to the difference between cybersecurity and information security. So to look at this, this is some pictorial view just to give us a broad idea, the difference between the two. Cybersecurity is actually a subset of information security, as cybersecurity usually deals with safeguarding the technologies that we use to guard the information, and to secure the information that exists in the digital realm, right, or on the cyber realm. But with information, it ensures safety of the overall information that we have, so not only the digital, but also, information in general, as we have it in our various works. But then we are here as civil society organizations, and most of the time, there is that temptation that we may not want to put ourselves or be concerned a lot about information security. So one thing that I want us to also ponder upon as we move along is, should we really be concerned as civil society organizations about information security? We should probably leave that concern to, private institutions, financial institutions like the banks, security agencies that deal with a lot of data. As civil society organizations, should we really be concerned? Should we really be concerned? Should we really be concerned? Why is it relevant for us as civil society organizations, to have this particular training that we are having today? Anyone to share any light on that? Why should we even bother ourselves to be here to discuss and to gain knowledge on information security as civil society organizations? Are we really target of hackers? Anyone? As mentioned, you can put in the chat. I'll happily read it, or you can raise your hand. Just share any perspective at all that you have. Like, what prompted you to have this? Okay, John's hand is up. So John, you can unmute and speak.
Okay, so thank you very much. I want to look at it from the perspective of obligation, our obligation as CSOs, not necessarily an attack. So based on the category of people we deal with a vulnerable segment of society. And so we owe them that obligation to protect their information. And so it should be one of our greatest concerns, how we are able to safeguard the information we generate on this vulnerable segments of society. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. I think there was another hand up, but it's lowered now. I don't know if you'd want to still contribute. Let me look in the chat. Okay, so Sir David said, yes, because we handle very sensitive stuff, beneficiaries, donor, and organizational information. And then Yakubu again says, to protect vital information from the general public. Yes, so very much on point, and thank you so much for these brilliant contributions. Of course, we do not work alone. We work with the community, and we also work with, other partners, both within our local environment and also, globally, on a global level. And we tend to exchange information with these partners. So the responsibility really is on us, for us to protect and safeguard whatever information we receive from these stakeholders. And before I read the next comment in the chat, Stella, I'm going to unmute you so you can make your submission. Please go ahead.
All right, thank you very much. So I think when we when we have a document or we have something in place that talks about how people's data or information are secure with us, it makes people very confident, when they are dealing with us.
Yes. So great points there. And it's also in agreement with what Eva Edna puts there to ensure confidentiality. And then there's also an addition of availability. So thank you very much, Stella and Eva, for these points. And yes, that is very true. All what we have said are the exact reasons why as CSOs we should be concerned, because we are not only thinking about information generated internally within our organizations, but because we deal with a lot of data. And sometimes these data are very sensitive, and they are data that we receive from our partners and from our communities. We have that responsibility, again, because they may have some legal or compliance consequences for us. So let's look at these points outlined in our next slide on the importance of information security for us as CSOs. So the first point is to help us to protect sensitive data. And this sensitive data could be both internally, with our staff and employees and colleagues, to what we receive from external stakeholders. And then it also helps us to maintain trust, because you do not want data that you have received from your partners or from your community to be breached. And when this news gets out there, it will not be a good look for your organization, and partners and stakeholders may begin to think twice about, dealing with you. And so to be able to maintain trust that you are capable to secure or to safely keep their information is very, very paramount and important for us to consider. The next thing is it helps us to prevent data breaches. So far as we have this data, we need to ensure that we are blocking access, unauthorized access from any intruders. And so definitely once we are concerned about information security, it is a step towards preventing data breaches. And the next thing is to be able to be compliant with regulations that exist. In our part of the world, there definitely are laws that we may not know of. And so it is up to us to be safe so that you do not find yourself in the wrong side or on the wrong side of the law with some of these regulations with regards to information security. And then when you are, involved, or when you build a capacity to secure your information, you are also mitigating cyber threats. And some of these threats have a sole goal of targeting or getting access to your information. And then that information can be used to cause harm to you and your organization. So if you are very, very savvy on information security, then you help to mitigate some of these cyber threats. And then last but not the least is to ensure continuity of operations, because the moment you suffer a cyber attack or the moment your information is breached, then that means that there's a high likelihood your business or your organization or your work operations is not going to continue. So in order to avoid that, you need to, make sure that you are taking very much, importance, or you are putting very much importance to information security. Okay, so having gone through this, just to put us, in the direction of why it is important for us to have this training, why it's important for us to, do or tackle matters of information security, we are going to look at the next thing, that is the cyber threats or cybersecurity landscape, just so that we can understand some of the ways that our information is attacked. And the first one we are going to look at is a phishing attack. Kindly show by hand if you have, or if you know of a phishing attack, what it is, or if you have actually encountered one, if you have actually suffered from a phishing attack, kindly show by hand. You can just use the reaction on the controls. Kindly show by hand. Okay, I have just one hand. Yes, so a phishing attack is a kind of attack that usually targets emails. So you receive an email that will appear to be from a legitimate source. And the main goal of this email is to gain some sort of information from you, or to influence you to perform an action, And mostly the end goal of this phishing attack is to attack your information. Once they have access to that information, they can use that to harm you. And that can cause financial loss. That can cause a lot of damage to your organization. So that is a phishing attack. As we saw in the outline, we will look at how we can identify phishing attacks, because it's one of the major attacks that are happening to us. Sometimes we do not even know that we have suffered one. We do not even know that we are victims of phishing attacks, but it is really happening. So we will look at how we can be aware, or how we can identify a phishing attack later on. And the next one is a malware, which is very, very common. We've all heard of viruses, Trojans. If you talk about cybersecurity to anyone and you ask them what they know, I'm sure the word virus will come in at a point. But virus really is a part of a parent group of malicious software. And this is termed as malware. So malware is actually malicious and then software put together. And what this does is that it is intended to cause harm to you, as the word suggests. So you have it installed on your computer by clicking on an anonymous link, or you receive, some sort of freebie online and you click on it, or you insert a drive in your computer that is infected with malware, and then it is installed at your blind site, and then it begins to cause harm to your computer. The next one is ransomware. And this can happen to our systems, to our websites, to our computers. What this does is once it enters, or once it attacks your system, it encrypts all your data so that you can no longer have access to your data or your information. And then the attacker will demand a ransom from you. And I have seen this happen before. I see Eva put in the chat WhatsApp. Yes, I've seen this happen a lot. I don't know whether you have experienced this before, but ransomware exists. Sometimes if you are not a target, or if you are not a victim, you may think that these are things that actually do not happen, but they really do exist. And as we are using technology day in, day out, it is very imperative for us to take notes. Okay, so maybe Eva, I'll let you share how this actually happened later on. And thank you for that. And yes, the next one we are looking at is man-in-the-middle attack. And we are still looking at all of this, in the perspective of information security. And so whenever you are communicating with someone using your digital devices, you are sending information from one network to the other, right? And so someone can place themselves in the middle of that two-way conversation, or that two-way communication. And what they are doing is they have access to whatever you are sending across and whatever you are receiving. And once they have access to that, they can manipulate it, they can modify it, and that exchange can happen. There is a real life scenario that we encountered some time back, where a man in the middle placed themselves in between two emails that was supposed to share financial records, right? So send a bank account across to receive payments, and the man in the middle just altered the email and sent his bank account. At the end of the day, the money was sent, but through some timely interventions, the money was, safely reversed. So just imagine, if you are not aware of this, you may think that everything you are doing is safe so far as you are using your organizational email, you are on a very secure platform. There are people that are not targeting your email platform. They are targeting the network along which your messages or your communication or your information is being sent. So the moment they get a hold of it, then they do whatever modification they want to do, and then they send it across. Yes, so that is it for some of the terminologies and some of the threats and attacks that we can encounter when we are dealing with our information online. And so we are moving on to the next one, which is on what we call the CIA triad, and under the basic security principles, and that is confidentiality, availability, and integrity. So this, we are saying that information needs to possess or needs to have these three key features, and we are going to break them down for us to see. Okay, so when we talk about confidentiality of information, this simply means keeping information private and accessible only to authorized parties, right? The information needs to be accessible and needs to be private only to authorized parties, right? So confidentiality is roughly equivalent to privacy in a way, and it is designed to prevent sensitive information from unauthorized access. So once you are able to categorize your data or your information, as a result of or based on the amount and the type of damage that could be done to it if breached, then you can implement some measures based on those categories. So some methods that we can use to achieve confidentiality of information is to use what we call data encryption. Data encryption. And when we talk about data encryption, it really is a technological method that we can use to transform or to modify our data using some specific key that we call encryption key, so that anyone that gets access to it cannot make meaning of that data. They would need that key or a decryption key to be able to understand the data that is being sent. So this is very, very important. You can apply this data to data that you have stored somewhere or data that particularly you are sending. And I'm sure we have seen this particular feature or a notification of this feature on our WhatsApp when we are using the app, that messages sent across has end-to-end encryption. How many of us have seen that notification or that alert before? You can just show by hand if you have seen that, or you can just give a thumbs up. Great. Yes. So that is encryption. What that means is that whatever conversation I am having, thank you, Patrick, whatever conversation I am having with, for instance, Farouk on WhatsApp, it is, it is believed that the message is not going to be seen by anyone who intercepts it on the way, or they cannot read it. The only people that can read it is me that is sending it and Farouk that is at the receiving end. So that is encryption for us, and that can help us to achieve confidentiality of information. Before I go on, so you can note these points down. All of these can be further explored because there are tools that can be used to achieve them. So when you take encryption, for instance, there are tools, even with our Windows operating systems, with our phones, there are tools. So you can explore them later on. So you can just take note of them somewhere as we move on. The next thing is to also use IDs and passwords. For instance, you are sharing access of a platform to someone or a website to someone. And then on that same website, employees of the organization can have access of a sort to the back end. But how can they do that? They need some sort of ID, a username and a password to be able to do that, because that information there that at the back end is private and should be accessible only to the authorized people. So for them to use that or have access to that, they need an ID, a username or a password. So that's also another method. The next method is to use data verification. So for instance, you call your bank and you ask them to check your balance for you. They would first of all need to ask you for your bank account. They need that to be able to verify, and then they can ask you some further information for you. Likewise, if you forget your password for an account and you are trying to reset, you may need to input the last password you remember, or you may need to input a recovery email, a recovery phone number. So these are also steps that can be used to verify people that should have access to information under confidentiality. The next one is using multi-factor authentication. And we have this, in this era a lot, because it adds a second layer of authentication to whatever information you are trying to access. And then the last one is using biometric verification, which also exists in some context and in some part of the work we do. Now, moving on to some best practices that we can use to achieve confidentiality is that data should be handled based on the organization's required privacy. So every organization has their own policies regarding privacy. So when you are looking at confidentiality of information, you should make sure that it is in conformity with the organization's approved privacy policy. So that is very, very important. We've already spoken about encryption. It is one of the best practices to use just to avoid, because assuming someone has access to credentials that you have shared, someone has access to whatever systems you have in place for verification, for two-factor authentication, you may want to rely on encryption to save you. So it is very important and one of the best practices. And then also you can use access control, but particularly ensure that you keep your access control list updated. So if you have an access control, which basically means controlling the people that should access what kind of information and then at what time. So assuming you are working on a particular project, so the finance unit needs to give access of a file to another colleague, or perhaps a temporal access to an external stakeholder, and then that engagement is terminated, or that engagement comes to an end, you need to update your access control mechanism so that whoever was brought on board temporarily, and we can even look at this even with our social media handles. For instance, you can, get some external people to work on your social media handles temporarily, but the moment they are done with what they need to do, you need to revoke that access. It is very, very important that we take note of that. So these are some best practices that we can, go through. And in ensuring that you go through all of this, you need to train your staff, or train the people particularly involved in implementing some of these things, so that it helps them familiarize themselves with some risk factors that also come with the processes. Okay, so the next one is integrity. And when we talk about integrity, it is just about ensuring data accuracy and consistency. So making sure that your data is accurate and consistent, and trustworthy over an entire life cycle, right? So data should not be changed in transit, for instance, and then you need to also take steps to ensure that your data cannot be altered by unauthorized people. So if you are sharing a file to someone to view, make sure the rights you are giving to the person is actually right for them to view and not to edit, because they could make modifications if they have the rights. So integrity has got to do with ensuring that these do not happen and that your data remains accurate and also consistent. So some methods that we can use to also achieve integrity of data is to invoke file permissions and user access controls, as we have seen access control in confidentiality, the same way with integrity. Because if you are controlling who has permissions and who has access to your files, that means that your files are consistent and they are also accurate, and no one is changing or having unauthorized modifications over your files. One other way is to also implement version control, so that in case there are any changes that were unwarranted or any changes that were implemented by mistake, you can always go back to an existing version or an older version of your information, and also make sure that you are using detection systems to detect, for instance, who is getting access to your system at what point. And if you know that you are not giving access to anyone and you receive an alert that your system is being intruded or is being penetrated by another person, then you know that this is something that calls for alarm. So it's important for us to implement detection systems as well. And then some best practices that we can use to make sure that integrity of our information is upheld is to put your employees or colleagues that are particularly involved with certain information through some sort of knowledge acquisition on compliance and regulatory requirements, right? So you make sure that they are aware of some of these compliance issues, you know, at the end of the day, so that you can minimize human error. And then also make sure that you always have backup and then recovery, so that in the event of any modifications or in the event of any data loss, you can always fall back on your original versions or on your securely saved backups or your recovery software to recover some files that may have been lost. And then also, again, we can use version control, access control, security control, all of this just to ensure that whoever is having access to your files are the right people and are the authorized people to have access to them. And when you do that, you are not compromising your information or your data to go through any unauthorized changes, you know, as you would have it. The last information security principle here is availability, right? Because if you have information anywhere, it is very, very paramount that once we need access to it, we should be able to have access to it. Information should be consistently and readily accessible for authorized parties. So you are just ensuring here that information is accessible when needed. Some methods that we can use to make sure that we have the information we need at the point where we need it is to make sure that we maintain all our systems regularly. To check that systems are working well, just so you do not go through any failures that you have not anticipated. Make sure that you are checking your system to make sure that everything is working well. And once everything is working well, in the unlikely event that you even go through a system failure, you make sure you attend to it immediately. So all repairing of systems should be, tackled immediately. And we are talking about your hardware, your technical infrastructure, any systems that hold or display information. Make sure that you are maintaining them and then you are repairing them as well. And then you also need to maintain a properly functioning operating system, because whatever system your information is running on or your information is being stored on, it runs on an operating system, and you need to make sure that that operating system is functioning properly and it's functioning well. Some best practices to ensure availability is to use preventive measures such as redundancy, failover, and RAID, and ensure systems and applications stay updated. You know that a lot of our systems have regular updates that are being released, even with our operating systems on our computers. Most of the time, we tend to turn a blind eye on it because we are, in a hurry to complete one task or the other. And some of these updates will roll over for days. It is very, very important because there may be some vulnerability issues that attackers are exploiting. And the solution to that is in the release of the updates that has been released. So we need to make sure that when we have these updates, we install them quickly and our systems are up to date so that we seal all loopholes and vulnerabilities that our systems may have. And then we also need to make sure that we are constantly monitoring our networks and our servers because sometimes you would see unusual activities on your networks. Sometimes you see unusual activities on your computers. Recently, I saw a colleague going through a similar issue. One of their disk drives, the local disks on their computers, was constantly being full or filled. So they will free up some space of about 10 gigabytes, and then it will get filled within a matter of minutes. And if you have that, that means that there is a chance that some of the information on your computer or on your system may not be available when you need them. Because here lies the case, your system is being overridden and your storage space is being eaten up. And so it is very important for us to be monitoring our systems and our networks to avoid any unwarranted or unseen circumstances like that. And also we need to ensure that we have a data recovery and business continuity plan so that in case of a system failure, in case of information loss, we have a fallback plan that we can use for business continuity, to go on, and then we can recover our data to help us continue our business. So it's very, very important that we put together that plan, and this could involve, putting together systems and mechanisms to back up your data in another location so that when there is an attack or when there is loss on one system, you have a system at a different location that you can use. And these days, when you talk about location, it's not only physical. As a matter of fact, the most secured locations now exist online in the cloud. So we can, use that to our advantage and ensure that we have set up our data recovery systems and business continuity plans to help us in the case of data loss. So this brings us to the end of our basic security principles, looking at confidentiality, integrity, and availability. The next thing we are going to look at, and we are going to, share our perspectives, is password management. Password management. Password management. I know that most of us have a lot of accounts online. We have accounts that require signing in even off our digital channels. And so we use passwords every now and then. We even have passwords in some of our, our lockers, some of our suitcases and stuff. So passwords is something that is very much common with all of us. We all use passwords each and every day. But most of the time, the way and manner we use passwords, the way and manner we handle passwords are quite questionable. So I want us to look at what we have on the screen. Sorry, let me mute Chief. Okay, so let's kindly look at what we have on the screen and kindly put in the chat which of the elements there have you ever been a culprit. Is it using a weak password? By that I mean passwords that are guessable, passwords that have patterns like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or passwords that are very, very short, very, very short passwords, or you have been using the same password for more than one account, using the same passwords everywhere for the past 3 years or so, or you have been ignoring two-factor authentication. Every now and then when you want to log into your account, they prompt you that you have not set a recovery account or a recovery email. Do so now. You have not set two-factor authentication. Do so now. And you are ignoring that safely, or you are not logging out of your systems. You are at work, you are going for lunch, you just leave your system unattended to when you go. Perhaps you are going to the washroom, you leave your system unattended to. You are sitting behind your computer and you have to attend to a colleague out of the blue, you leave your system unattended to. Even in trainings outside of our organizations, do we do that? kindly put in the chat which of them have you been a culprit. Okay, weak, not logging out of systems. I think that is very, very common. Using the same password for more than one account. Okay, ignoring two-factor authentication, using one password for more than one account. That is very, very honest of you. Thank you. Colleagues, you can put in which of them are you culprits? Kindly put in the chat. I'm waiting for you. In a few seconds, we will move on. Sir David. Sir David said not logging out of systems, but he has repented from today. That's good to know. That's good to know. And I believe we are all going to repent from all of these from today after we go through this session. Okay. Thank you, Emmanuel, using the same password for many accounts. Thank you very much. Not logging out of systems again, and then using one password for more than one account, almost all except the password. And then using the same password for more than one account. Thank you, Florence. And then it seems using the same password for a lot of accounts is very common with us all. But really, do we think that is good? Or perhaps can one of us share, why do we do that? Why do we find it very, very convenient to use one password for more than one account? For simplicity. Okay. Okay, Ruth, I'm going to unmute you so you share.
Yeah, hello.
Yes.
For me, I think it's for remembrance. If you use the same password, you remember because you know it's that same password. But if you have so many passwords, like one, you get confused. Secondly, you forget.
Okay, that is very true. Thank you very much. Okay, so there was another hand. I think you may have spoken the person's mind. Yes, but I mean, it's true. In this day and age, we have a lot of accounts. We have a lot of systems that require us to create passwords. And so to be able to remember these passwords, sometimes the safest bet is to try and use the same password. Assuming you forget a password, and then you have another email that you have used for recovery, and then a reset password link is sent to that email, but unfortunately, you have forgotten the password of that email as well. You will be in a very serious fix in that situation. I have Yakubu saying for remembrance, and then Musa saying forgetting your password too can get your account blocked as well. Yes. And then lastly, Florence says it's easy to access your account when you have the same passwords across. And all of what you are saying is very, very true. I mean, it is so true. And we have all been there before. As a matter of fact, I said in passing earlier that if you have never been a victim of a cyber attack, you may think that you are safe or you are free from these attacks. But the truth of the matter is you are only secured until you are hacked. It only takes a second or a minute, for you to be hacked. So much as it is very easy for us to conveniently use the same passwords across, assuming someone is able to chance on that particular password, all they need to do is to find the accounts that you have used to to set up on other platforms, and then they can use the same password to access all your accounts. So it is very, very serious, when we are doing that. And sometimes when we use our email address, these days, all your accounts are tied to your email, from social media to your bank, to a lot of systems and accounts are tied to our emails. And you can use your emails to actually reset passwords to all of these. So even aside using the same passwords, if these passwords are easy to guess and someone is able to get access to them, it's going to put us in a very, very serious and compromising situation. So it is very important that everything that was listed in the previous slide, we try and avoid that. But there's also a very, very serious or importance of having strong passwords that we are going to look at. And having a strong password will help you to prevent unauthorized access. So every account that you have, if you have a weak password, there is what we call a brute force attack that seeks to guess passwords that are very, very simple and can do this in a matter of seconds. So if you have a password that has a pattern, for instance, some of us will just go on our keyboard and just type from the K to the Y, QWERTY, and then we can add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you have these passwords as your password, then your account is just sitting on a time bomb and is going to be hacked very, very soon. The next thing is, if you have a strong password, it helps you to keep your data private and confidential, because if no one is getting access to your account, if no one is able to penetrate into your account, then all your information is kept private and is kept confidential. The next thing that I mentioned just now is defending your account from brute force attacks. And these days, these software are very, very common. Even with the advent of artificial intelligence, people can download these softwares. Initially, people did not have an idea what these software are, even the names of them. But with artificial intelligence, it's very easy, So now you do not have the conventional hacker trying to attack your system, but you have your colleagues, your friends, that are not even IT guys or tech guys, having access to some of these tools, and they can perform brute force attacks. And it's even very much easy if they know you and they have some sort of personal information about you, like your date of birth, like your names and stuff like that. It is very easy for them to penetrate into your system or to breach your information. Having a strong password also helps you to protect your personal and financial account. If you have an email, for instance, and you have linked into your bank account, you are receiving your statements, you are receiving alerts of debits and credits. So if someone is able to have access to your password and they are able to log into your email, the moment you receive an alert that some sort of debit, your account has been credited, then that warrants an idea in them that they can actually probe further. They can actually find ways and means to get access to that money. And with these days that we have internet banking, we have mobile banking applications. If your password is weak and someone has access to your email, know that they can have access to your banking information, and that can lead them to actually get access to your funds. The next and the last thing on the importance of having strong passwords is to reduce risk of identity theft. Again, if someone has access to your social media account password alone, for instance, they can see a lot of information about you, enough for them to steal your identity. These days, you can receive some sort of request from your friends on social media, describing some dire situation that they are in, that they need help from you. A lot of these accounts have actually been hacked and are not the real people behind these attacks, behind these accounts. So they are just people that have acquired access to these accounts in an unauthorized manner, and they are trying to use the identity of the person that you know to acquire some sort of information or some sort of resources from you. So now we have looked at the importance of having strong passwords. So how do we think, or how do we create strong passwords? What are some of the elements that make up a strong password? And I know that some of us have actually created strong passwords and are using them, but how do we know, or how do we create strong passwords? What comes to mind? What are some of the elements we should consider when we are creating strong passwords? Who believe here that they have very strong passwords? Can you share with us some of the features that you had in mind when creating your password? Anyone to contribute, you can raise your hand. Okay, Stella, you can kindly go on.
All right. Hi. Yeah. So basically, personally, as you mentioned earlier, sometimes we have the tendency of using our own birthdays. So I would go out of my birthday and then use maybe other family members, of course. Yeah. And then sometimes I would not necessarily make it a straight way so that it will even be obvious if the person or whoever wants to hack might have an idea of the birthday of a family member. And then also I try to use caps to begin some of the words that I might want to use. So caps, I mix caps with lower cases. And then sometimes I use some of these other signs like hash or hash and the rest, or at and the rest. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Even
thank
space, or even space bar, like space bar. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for that, Stella. I was almost going to raise an objection when you said birthday of family, yes, but you went ahead to say that not the direct ones, because when an attacker is targeting you, they are not looking at just your personal information, but people that are around you. So you may want to, just go as far apart from the people in your circle, and even that are a little closer to your circle as well, when you are thinking of passwords. And so that is very, very important. Adding or mixing capital letters is also very, very key. And I have in the chat, Musa said mix caps with small letters, characters, and numbers. And Eva also said mixing small and capital letters and symbols, like the @ sign, like the percentage sign. So that's also in agreement with what you said, Stella, using the hash and then the space bar as well. And then we have Ferdinand saying mixing of dates, alphabets, and functional keys. Wow, that would be a very strong password. And then John says, I spell a word from backwards and add symbols. Wow. Definitely, these are very, very, good methods or approach to creating strong passwords. So let's just put down the points so that we can take note of that, what to generally consider, as I've already been mentioned. So the first thing is that the length of a password really matters. The length of a password really matters. So it does not matter if you have, let's say, a hashtag, a T, a percentage sign, a dollar sign, an L, a capital D, a capital F, like in a very short string, let's say 6 letters arranged. And then someone has the entire national anthem of a country, like verbatim, like the same words, the same letters. It will take a shorter time to hack the person with the shorter one than the person with a longer password. So length really matters. And this may not have been the case in the past, but these days, the software that exists, that attackers use to penetrate into our systems, actually does a very rapid job if the length of your password is short. So let's keep that in mind. Let's try and incorporate some more characters in the creation of our passwords than we used to have in the past or currently. So that is that for length. And then, of course, once you have your length, you also need to mix the characters. As Khalif have mentioned, you can add small letters, capital letters, symbols. You can even have a word and just write it in a backwards form. That is also very much allowed. And so that is also important for us to do. And by all means, please avoid common words. Please avoid common words. You know, words like, I remember those days when they did a survey of passwords that were easily hacked. The most common hacked passwords included the phrase, I love you. Just I and then love and then you. Just that. There was one password that a lot of people were using. And then for operating systems, people were just using the space bar and then enter. You know, these are very, very common passwords that you should avoid. Always try to mix it up. And then avoid using personal information. So let's say my name is Kwame, and then my password is Kwame at 1998, because that is when I probably created my email. That will be a no-no, you know. So avoid using personal information. Avoid using dictionary words that can be guessed, words that can make meaning. Avoid using them by all means. So if you are spelling a word, for instance, you can replace an E with a 3. You know, just be creative in your passwords, and then consider using passphrases instead of word these days. So we are moving into that era, you know, from password to passphrases, because we actually can make use or benefit from the length of our password. And then last but not the least, I hope we have repented by now. So we are all going to use different passwords for each account. And I know that we have already mentioned that there's the likelihood of us forgetting our passwords, but there is what we call a password manager. It's not included in the presentation, but you can note it somewhere. Password manager. What it does is that it helps you to keep all your passwords at one place, and it can actually help you generate passwords. You know, so all the countless passwords that you have, you can keep them in one place. And because they are different, you know, for each account, you can always consult your password manager and then retrieve whatever password you have. They actually have auto login, autofill login. So when you open a system, or when you open a website and you want to log in, your password manager is already stored in your browser, and it can autofill the fields for you, so you don't need to enter it anytime or every time. And it actually can synchronize on all your devices. So you can have it on your computer, you can have it on your phone. I use a very good password manager called LastPass that you can also use. I have it on my phone, I have it on my computer. Anytime I need a password, wherever I am, if even I'm not on my computer, I can just consult my phone. If I'm on my computer, I can just open it up on my computer, and it really helps. And so, yes, Patrick is asking a very interesting question. Let me address that. What if someone is able to break into your password manager? So one way to prevent unauthorized access to your account is through multi-factor authentication. So once you have that, that means that you have your password to your password manager. You can have your multi-factor authentication as well. When someone tries to log in, you are alerted and you are sent a verification code for you to use to verify. Now, one thing that password managers also does, particularly with the one that I'm using, is when a new device is trying to log in, it is not going to allow the login to go through. It will have to go through more stringent processes before it can be allowed. You know, so two-factor authentication would be one, but it actually also adds another layer automatically. So you need to also approve it in your email as well. So it does not make it easy for, you know, people to log in. And even if you get access to my phone, for instance, you cannot go into my my password manager, because I will still need to use my biometric, you know, first of all, to open my phone, and then next to open the LastPass app. And once I do that, there's going to be an email verification that will be sent. So the layers of verification when you're using your password manager, you can define it. You can just limit it to just one, but I have about 3 layers of verification. So it's not easy for you to get access to it, you know. And assuming someone tries to even access my LastPass or my password manager in another location, because LastPass has learned my IP, like the location of my devices, the kind of networks I connect to, namely my organization network and my home network. Anyone that tries to access it from another network, even if it's myself, is going to restrict me from accessing it. And all of this can be defined by you. So it is very, very important. These days, we have two-factor authentication, but there is also multi-factor authentication. And that is what I will propose to us all to be able to explore usage on. So now, kindly look at every element on the screen, and let's try and create a password, that we can deem as a very strong password. You don't need to put it in the chat. You can just write it somewhere or type it on your device somewhere, because we are going to do a test of how long it will take for a system or a computer software, a brute force attack software, to be able to hack that password that you are going to put together. So let's do that. Let's write the password there. And as we are writing, I will go ahead to demonstrate. I'll go ahead to demonstrate what I mean by that. But we can use this link. Once we have our password, we can use the link on the screen. Once you visit this link, you will be able to enter the password that you have created, that you feel is very, very strong. And then you will be shown how long it will take a computer to penetrate into your system or to break that password that you have. So let's kindly do that. Let's kindly do that. Let's, my colleague Whitney, if you are on the call, kindly put the link to this so that I can project something else on the screen in the chat. You can put the link to this in the chat. And I'm going to, let us create a password right now. So let's say I'm going to create a password that says that the country is hot at, and then I'll do PPN, right? And then what else did we say we want to add? Numbers 2024. And then we can add some symbol. So we can add maybe a $sign, right? And then maybe we can say we are adding a hashtag. Now this password may not make sense. I mean, we still have some dictionary words here, right? So we can try and edit this as well. So every E here, I'll turn to 3, and then I'll change the C to K, and then I'll change the Y to I, and I'll change this I to Y, and then I will change this hot to this sign here. So this is my password. This is one password that is strong. And then I'll create another password. Let's say I come from Ghana. Okay, great. So next I'm going to copy this particular one first. So let me just make sure I'm copying this password. Okay, now right click this and do copy. Next, I'll bring to the screen. This is the interface of the website that you can use to check the password. So I will just paste it here. And we can see that it will take 800,000 years for a computer to crack this password, right? Okay, so let me go again. To the same link. And then I will copy the second one. I mean, the first one in this case. And then I'll paste it in the chat. And now we can see it would take a computer about 100 octillion years. I never knew we had octillion, you know. So yes, this is a clear indication of how, you know, this one is 800,000. So let's just change the years to, you know, cedis. And let's change this one as well to see which one would you rather have. I'm going for octillion cedis. Yeah. So let's quickly do that and put in the chat what results we had. What did we get? How many of us got 7 days? And how many of us got octillion or zillion, if there's something like that? Oh, Yakubu, so sorry you couldn't see the example I was doing. Sorry about that. But Eva said she got 7 quadrillion years. That is impressive. Who else? If you've been able to try, you can put it in the chat. If you've been able to try. And if you are not able to try, don't worry. The links of whatever we go through today will be shared with the slides with you. Bernard got 12,000 years. Bernard, you need to do a little more than that. Farouk, 41 years. Oh my God. I'm curious to know the password you used. 41 years. And then we have 15 billion years from Jeffrey. Nas' first example was 12 hours. And the second was 5 million years. Okay, so definitely that 12 hours, even in this day and age, could be trickled down to way less. So it's good that you had a second one that was 5 million. And then we have 4 billion years and 5 years from one of my colleagues. And then Joshibet has 400 billion years. Gideon, please come again. 3 weeks. Please, let's work a little harder on that password, Gideon. Yes, so this just gives us an idea of what we are dealing with our passwords. You know, Mr. Ahin, 46 million years. Mr. Ahin, please be targeting octillion. I've not seen octillion yet in the chat. Not yet. So please, let's, as much as possible, let's, you know, incorporate anything at all. And you can think of anything at all. Just be creative. And so far as you have a password manager, for instance, you know that you are at liberty to create, you know, very, very complex passwords and not worry about forgetting them, right? So, okay, Stella wants the link to be reposted. So Whitney, kindly repost the link. Ferdinand also have 12,000. Please, those in the thousands, we are talking millions and billions here. So please come again. All right, so moving on. So far as we have, and I believe we noted them down, we have those points in place. It will be good for us to implement them in our passwords going forward. We do not want to be victims of security breaches or password attacks. And to the next important point, that is on phishing awareness. Phishing awareness. As I mentioned, one of the very, very serious ways, or one of the very common ways that hackers are targeting us is through phishing. And we already saw in the introduction that phishing is usually received in our emails, and they appear to be emails that are from legitimate sources. And so they could appear to be from your colleagues within the organization. They could also appear to be from service providers that you are subscribed to, you know, like your email client providers, softwares and applications that you have subscribed or purchased online. So these phishing emails will appear to you as some sort of, you know, messaging or some sort of communication from these service providers or from your stakeholders and partners. But how do we really identify phishing emails? Because they tend to have almost close identity as the legitimate source. So the first, sorry, let me mute the person, then we can, okay, thank you. So the first way, or the first thing to look out for to help you identify a phishing email is to look or to check the sender's email address. And there's a way that you do that. Normally, when you receive an email, you would see the sender's name. There are times that the email address of the sender is even hidden. So you only see the name. And names are names can be written by anyone. So I can create an email and then I can determine the name that my email address should use as a sender name. So I can create an email address as kwame@gmail.com, but I'll say my sender name should be what? Farouk Hassan. So if you receive an email from me and you do not go a step further to check my email, but you are checking the sender's name alone, you see Farouk there, but the email address may not be Farouk's email. So it's very important for us to check the sender's email. And we'll look at that in more practical terms very soon. And then after we check the sender's email, we also need to watch out for urgency or threats. Usually phishing emails will come to you with some sort of urgency, prompting you to take an action, prompting you of some changes that have occurred within a system or some updates that have been released that requires you to change your password. You click on the link and you are redirected to another page which has fields for you to enter your old password and then your new passwords as a legitimate, password change request will look like. You always enter your old one and then your new one and then you confirm. But here lies the case that you have not even requested for any password change. But then the email is trying to prompt you on the urgency and the need for you to change your password. Once you see that, you need to be very cautious. There are some that also come as threats, that you are vulnerable to some attacks, that they have identified some vulnerability or some loophole in your system. So take this action or that action. That is very, very, cautioning. You need to be wary of that. The next thing is that since most of these emails are created to target a lot of people, they usually create them in haste. So there is a likelihood for it to have spelling and grammar mistakes. So you should always look out for that, because an email coming from a legitimate source will do that due diligence of proofreading at least whatever information that they are sending to you. So you should look out for spelling and grammar mistakes. The next thing is for you to hover over links. Hover over links in your email. So when you receive an email and it's prompting you to click on a link, you do not just click on the link. You put your cursor on that link. And to be able to hover, that means you are using a computer. So once you put your cursor on the link, on a Windows machine, look at the bottom left corner of your screen or of your browser. You will see where that link is taking you to. So you just put your cursor, do not click. Once you put your cursor on the link, you will see there's a pop-up of where the link will take you to. And usually, you should be able to, once you see that, you should be able to tell whether that link is taking you to the right place or not by some signs that we will look at very shortly. And then do not click on any link at all. So when you receive a link, if you are not sure or certain, or you can verify that that link is legitimate, please don't click on it and do not download attachments. Some of these have viruses and various forms of malware attached to them. So please do not click on them. And then look for secure connections. So that is one of the ways that once you hover over a link, you can tell whether that link is actually a good link or not. Is to look out for the fact that that link is a secure connection. Secure connections have what? HTTPS. HTTPS. So there's always an S that follows the HTTP. If the link is not secured, you only see HTTP with no S. So let's also take note of that. And then always be cautious with requests for personal information, because mostly systems that we subscribe to that are legitimate will not ask you to provide personal information over emails. So please be cautious when you receive such requests. And when these requests come, even when they come, there are ways that you can use to verify. So let's quickly look at some of them before we go into how we can practice identifying phishing emails. So yes, you receive a request for personal information from a unit in your organization, from a partner, from a stakeholder, and you are not sure of it, kindly contact the requester directly. Contact them directly and verify whether they are the ones behind that request. And always, by all means, avoid using contact information forms from your email. So when you receive an email and you have to click a form and fill it, please verify. If you have not verified, then by all means, avoid filling that form with your contact information. Always double check the request. Always double check the request. Go through it again. Definitely you may be able to identify one loophole or the other, and then verify through known channels. By this, I mean, for instance, you have received an email that a certain service provider, a certain application, a certain partner is trying to request something from you. Perhaps you have not even heard of this partner before. What you can do is to do a Google search of the name that sent you. You know, sometimes a mere Google search can reveal to you that that particular email is a phishing attack, because there have been countless reports by other people who may have suffered, you know, from these phishing expeditions. So you can always copy some snippets of whatever you have received into a Google search or any channel at all to see whether it is from that particular source. And then lastly, check the email's domain. Check the email's domain. So for instance, I have a website that says that www.security.org, and I have been exchanging emails with you. And then some attacker identifies this particular email domain of mine and goes ahead to purchase security.com, and then uses security.com to create an email. Let's say I had been communicating with you with info@security.org, and then this person goes to purchase security.com and creates info@security.com and sends an email to you. If you do not check the domain well, you may be tempted to think that it is from me. So it is always important to check the email's domain, the domain of the email. So with these steps that we have looked at, first of all, the steps to be able to identify a phishing email and the steps to request an email, we are going to go through a test. I will go through the first two instances of that test, and then I will leave you to practice the rest at your end. I think there are about 8 questions in all. So once you're able to get 8 over 8, then that means you are a phishing email pro now. So my colleague kindly helped me, Whitney, by putting a link to that test or that quiz in the chat as I go through it with colleagues here. So this is it. This is how it looks like. This is how it looks like. Once you click on it, you will be taken to this page. And so I will click on take the quiz. And then for the purposes of this, I need to enter a name and then an email. It doesn't need to be my name or my email, right? It can be anybody's name at all. So I will use, since it is me, I'll use Kwame here. and then I'll use an email. I'll just create an email for them. So I'll use kwame@gmail.com. Certainly, this is not my email, but this is the information I want to use. So I need to also be wary of it. I need to be aware that this is the information I'm using because it may be part of the quiz that I'm doing, right? So this is my name and this is my email. So let me click on get started. All right, so the first question here is whether this particular email, and I'm working in the confines of this border here, right? This particular border here. So it is for me to check whether this particular email is phishing or legitimate. And then I would have to click on it, right? Once I click on it, I will see, or I will be alerted whether I had it right or not. So the first thing I want to look at when I receive an email is to check the sender. As I said, the sender's name appears here as Luke Johnson, and the sender's email appears here as luke.jason8000@gmail.com. So this is Luke Johnson, this is their email. I see that this is a legitimate email. I may not know of it, but I see it here. Now, this is sent to me, obviously. Now, I need to check the content of the email. I see that Luke Johnson has shared a link to the following document. And then the name of the document is what? 2023 Department Budget .docs. Now, this tells me that this document is a document, a Microsoft document format, a Microsoft document version by virtue of this .docs that is seen here, right? So it's something that I have to have in mind. Now, it's also saying that, hey there, here is the doc you asked for. Let me know if you need anything else. And it's asking me to open in docs, right? So I mentioned that once you hover over a link, the link's destination will appear at the bottom left. That is this side. But you can see that there's an overlay here that is asking me to accept cookies. So I need to click on it in order for me to see that link. So I'll click on, okay, got it here, so that will disappear. Now I'll hover over my first link. And if you can check the bottom left of my screen, if I hover, something appears. If I take my cursor off, it goes off. If I hover, it appears again. Now that link there is showing me the destination. That is http:// and then drive-google.com. Can we all see that link that is appearing at the bottom left of my screen? Can we all see that? Great. So now it is up to me to determine whether this link is legitimate or not. Now, based on your technical capacity, you may know whether this is legitimate or not. But I already even mentioned that in order to know that a link is secured, it needs to have a certain prefix. So can I have a volunteer here to tell me whether this is a legitimate link or not? Can I have someone? Let me see whether I have any hands. Okay, great. So I have John. I'll come to you next, Farouk, but I have John saying that there is no S to the HTTP. So let me hover over it again, and lo and behold, there is only HTTP with no S. So this even tells me that the link is not taking me to a secured location or a secured site. So then I do not even have to bother myself clicking on it. Likewise, I will hover over the second link here, and it's the same thing. But there is also another thing that is noticeable with this link, apart from the S. And I would really be happy if I can have someone try to tell us what that is. The link there, aside the fact that it does not have an S, also has some issue. Who can give it a try? Who can give it a try? Can we have anyone? You can raise your hand. Okay, Does any of us here use Google Drive? Does any of us here use Google Drive? You can raise your hand if you use Google Drive. Just quickly. Okay, I have one thumbs up. Okay, so let me just go on. So with Google Drive, if you ever use Google Drive, you'd realize that even the link or the URL to visit Google Drive is what? drive.google.com. drive.google.com, not drive-google.com. Do we understand? So yes, aside the S, even this link is not legitimate because it is not the appropriate link to visit a Google Drive, file. So I'll go ahead and click this as a phishing email, and then there we have it. We have correct. This is a phishing email, right? And it says you must have spotted the look-alike URL. Be cautious about hyperlinks and attachments you open from emails. They may direct you to fraudulent websites, right? So if we click on show me, it says I'm hovering over this link, you'll be able to see that it's not going to Google. And as I mentioned, it's drive-google.com. So it's not legitimate. And then this is the second one. For this second one, I would want someone to unmute and direct me what to do. And this is the last one we are taking so that we can move on quickly. So this is a fax that we have received, right? So can someone volunteer to take us through? You can just direct me what to do and then I'll do it. Whether I should hover over something, whether you have seen something that you want to comment on. Who would want to try? And please, let's share this with our colleagues in our organizations. Let them go through it. It's very, very helpful so that you can identify phishing emails when you receive them. Anyone, any volunteer? Any volunteer? Any volunteer? Are we there? Okay, John, I'm going to ask you to unmute.
So
Okay.
let me try. I would
Okay.
want to find out from whom is the email coming?
Mm-hmm.
The email is coming from who exactly?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so yeah, by that you mean the sender, right?
Yeah, the sender, yes.
Okay, so this is where the sender information is. So we have the name as fax message, no reply, and then the email address is also here, no reply at efax.com. So that is the sender.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so do we go on? Do you want to continue? You want to pass the batons to someone? Okay, great. So yes, we have checked the name of the sender, so we have that in mind. Who would want to mention the next thing that we can check?
Yeah, Kwame.
Yes, Farouk, go on, please.
What I also noticed in the email is the no reply at efax. I don't know. This fax is different from the other fax on the subject. There's the first fax FAX. This other one is FACKS. So meaning there's some kind of contradiction between where it's coming from and then the email address.
Yeah. Yes. So Farouk, by what you just said, so we have this efax here, which is EFACKS, and then this logo here is actually EFAX, right? So efax and efax are kind of like also different in a way. The last icing on the cake, then we move on. Who can help us? Anyone at all? Any volunteer? Anyone? Anyone?
Hello. All right, so
Yes.
this is Nee.
Okay,
I
Nee.
want us to hover over the link and see what we can find.
Okay,
at the bottom.
which link, Nee?
What the blue one that says click here to view.
Click here.
fax
Okay.
number.
Okay, so I'm hovering over it now.
Okay, so I noticed that like the first example, there's no S at the end of the HTTPS. And then if I can see right, this time eFax is spelled correctly, but there are too many things that you have to understand, and it makes me feel suspicious about the whole thing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much, Nee. That is very, very helpful. So yes, it is very right. First of all, the email was coming from where? eFax, which was questionable. And by hovering over this link, there is no S to the HTTP. And then again, something quite technical, but I think it will be a good takeaway for us all. So please let's take note, is that whenever you have a long URL like we have at the bottom left there, right? We have efax.hosting.com.mailru382.co. What that should tell you is that the actual domain is the one before the last dot. So the actual domain is mailru382.co. Whatever dot comes before it are subdomains that can be created. So let me break that down. Assuming I have a domain called kwame.com, I can create a subdomain on that kwame.com, and that subdomain can be farouk.whitney.charles.bernard.kwame.com. At the end of the day, it's kwame.com that is the domain. But all the ones that are before it is just to deceive people that is actually from. So on that same domain, kwame.com, I can have microsoft.com.kwame.com. That does not mean that it's coming from Microsoft. That only means that it's coming from kwame.com, but I've created a subdomain called microsoft.kwame.com. So that is something we should get. And attackers can be tricky like that. They can create subdomains that actually have the same name as the legitimate source as well. So again, let's go ahead and identify this as phishing, and we are correct again. So this is a very good place that you can practice your hands. There are 8 of them, and every time you visit, you can have different questions to try your hands on, you know. And so, like I said, the domain actually is mailru382.co. So please let's try our hands on it at our free time and share with our colleagues in our various organizations, so that they can also be brought on board. But are we all together? Because the next topic we are going to look at is very interesting. So I would want us kindly show a thumbs up if you are still with me. I'm looking in the chat. Kindly give me a thumbs up if you are still with me. Great. Can I have more? If you can hear me, kindly let me see a thumbs up. We are getting to the closing moments, but the next topics we are going to look at are very, very interesting. And so I would want everyone to participate. Great. Thank you very much. And the next one is on social engineering. Social engineering. This is very, very common within our region, within our countries. Social engineering. So what is social engineering? What is social engineering? Can I have anyone volunteer to tell us social engineering, what it is? What do you understand by social engineering? Or perhaps you have, okay, I have Nas hand raised. So now you can go ahead and speak.
Sorry, was a mistake.
Okay, I didn't quite get that, but then, okay. So if you have any perspectives to share, what do you understand by social engineering? Or if perhaps you understand it, you have actually been a victim, or you know someone who has been a victim, right? Can you talk to us briefly or share briefly with us, just what happened? Maybe you know someone that was a victim of Momo fraud. They sent a message to them to enter their password, or that they told them that they had mistakenly sent money to them, just briefly like that. Just one example should be enough. Anyone, social engineering activities that you have encountered or that you have witnessed? Can I have anyone? Or perhaps you want to just define social engineering, what you understand by that term, social engineering. Okay, we are all in this. We are all in the spirit of learning more about it. So let me just go on. So yes, when we talk about social engineering, all what we mean is that attackers have techniques that they use to induce people to act in a certain way, right? So with social engineering, even though we have engineering there, it's not really about the technicalities, or let me say ICT, right? It is more of psychology. And I have Stella to add up to the point I just made. So Stella, kindly go on.
Hello. Yes. So basically, the one I know of, the person does not even remember what it was, whether she was asked to even type anything. All she remembers is she was on the phone with the people, and then somehow they withdrew all her money from her wallet.
Wow. Yes, and yes, these days it tends to get interesting and complex at the same time, because you may think that so far as you are cautious, you receive alerts and you are not responding to them. You receive messages and you are not responding, you are safe. But just as we learned, and that's something I forgot to mention with phishing, the attackers of this day are sophisticated like that. You only need to receive the alert, have network enough to receive the alert. Once it comes, your information is gone, your resources, your money, whatever they are targeting is gone. So it's a very important point. And thank you, Stella, for bringing that up. And that's also another aspect of social engineering. And so as I was saying, in this present time, right, there are a lot of great cases of social engineering, like serious ones. It goes beyond just our normal devices, organizational level. There are actually social engineering cases on a national level and on an international level. Serious cases that have been reported and that have been aired on media for us to see. But to put ourselves in perspective, I want us to watch a video, right, of social engineering in play, just for us to get a glimpse of where we are at when it comes to social engineering with the right infrastructure, or should I say with the required infrastructure, right? Obviously, the end game of social engineering may not be right, but with the required infrastructure and tools and information, the consequences of that is dire. So let's watch a video and then we'll come back and discuss. So kindly pay attention to the video, because after we watch this video, we will share our thoughts on what we saw. So let's just watch it closely.
DEF CON is the biggest hacker convention of the year.
Okay.
DEF CON is the biggest hacker convention of the year. It's a place where thousands of hackers come to hear talks, to demonstrate their newest hacks. It's actually a place that's so dangerous to be on the internet that they tell you to turn off the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth on your phone, and they tell you not to use the ATMs too, because those could be hacked as well. This is the DEF CON ballroom. It's sort of the main room where things are happening, and it's pretty wild. I think this is Car Hacking Village. This car is locked. Can you get me in?
I'll unlock it for you. Should be good.
hacking is no longer like this fringe activity. And if you are at DEF CON, there's a good chance that you're here because you want to learn what could happen to you or your company.
Anyone here first time in the SCCTF? Holy crap.
I invited Chris to hack me with his team, but they're gonna hack me using social engineering, which is essentially hacking without any code. They just use a phone and an internet connection.
We help people with human security issues by testing vulnerabilities for like a network test, but it's for the people network. We test those vulnerabilities, see where the holes are, and then help people learn so they can patch them.
Can we try some of this? Can we try some?
Yeah.
See if it works?
Yeah, we probably could have our star visher here make some phone calls as
Let's do it.
Sure. Do you want to do a sample phishing call?
What's phishing?
Phishing is voice elicitation, and basically what you do is you use the phone to extract information or data points that can be used in a later attack.
Let's do it. Who are you gonna call?
Maybe I'll call your cell phone provider
Okay.
and see if I can get them to give me your email address.
I bet they're good. I bet they have my back. But yeah, go for it.
I'm gonna spoof from your number, so it's gonna look like it's calling from you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm so sorry. Can you hear me okay? My baby, I'm sorry. my husband's like, we're about to apply for a loan and we just had a baby and he's like, get this done by today. So I'm so sorry, I can't call you back. I'm trying to log into our account for uses information and I can't remember what email address we used to log the account. The baby's crying and can you help me? Awesome.
In just 30 seconds,
gmail.com?
Jessica gets my personal email address.
Now, if I needed to add our older daughter on our account so she could call in and make changes, how would I need to go about doing that? You would have to send me a secure PIN through a text message? Yeah, well, the thing is, I don't think I'll be able to receive a text message if I'm on the phone. Shh. Oh, I'm not on there either? So I thought when we got married, he added me to the account. Okay, my
Jessica
name
uses my girlfriend's name and a fake social security number
is 5127.
to set up her own personal access to my account.
Wait, I'm sorry, so there's no password on my account right now? Can I set that up?
She even gets the support person to change my
Thank you
password.
so much for your help today.
So she just basically blocked me out of my own account.
I'll get her fed after this. All right, thank you.
Holy shit. So they just gave you access to my entire cell phone account.
You're gonna have to go on and change your password now because it's Jess, my name.
And all it took was a crying baby and a phone call.
Yes.
I really thought that my cell phone company would protect me. I mean, like, this is the most basic stuff, and they're not doing it. And if they're not doing it, you know all these other businesses aren't doing it either. Anyone with a phone and an internet connection can do social engineering. But I was curious, what can a hacker with serious coding skills do?
Well, DEF CON is the world's biggest hacking convention. It's hacking everything, hacking social, hacking hardware, hacking software, hacking various systems.
I asked Dan Tentler, a well-known security researcher, to turn all of his firepower on me.
I did get into quite a number of things that I found.
So what were the first things you did? How did you start hacking me?
I quickly found your Squarespace blog and had an idea. Basically what I did was created a bogus Squarespace site and sent an email to you, a phish asking you to go to this website, run this certificate installer.
And I did it, because I'm an idiot.
So once you ran that, it gave me access to your computer, and I created several fake pop-ups that looked like system pop-ups that would ask you for your credentials.
You didn't even have to have my passwords.
No, you gave them to me.
I gave them to you.
Yeah. So I stole your 1Password keychain.
And 1Password is where I store all my other passwords. So effectively by...
And your social security number and your Amex stuff and all your stock trading and bank information. I can send email to everyone in this room as you. I am you right now, if I wanted to be. If my evilness is working correctly, it should actually be taking pictures of your desktop and pictures through your webcam every 2 minutes. And I have been watching you for about 2 days now. In coffee shops, at your mom's house, on a plane. Here's your editing stuff. There's you like.
Oh my God! So this is literally
every 2 minutes
through my webcam.
Yeah, through this guy.
How badly could you have messed up my life?
I could have made you homeless. I could have made you homeless and penniless.
How? How would you make me homeless?
Like I have control of your digital life in its entirety. I have all your credentials. I have all your access to all your financial information, all your work information, all your personal information. I can pay people with your bank account or your Amex account. I am you. I can fully impersonate. Like, the only thing I couldn't doctor would be like your fingerprints.
This is like as bad as it gets.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, it's bad.
So it turns out that Dan Tentler is very good at his job. I mean, he hacked the hell out of me. He got everything. Well, I mean, frankly, I want to take my computer and throw it into the deepest part of the ocean, and I want to become a hermit, and I want to never touch a piece of technology again, because holy shit, that was everything. That was the keys to my entire life, and he just pulled them out of his pocket.
Okay. What do we make of the video? That was social engineering at play. Right there.
Kwame.
Yes.
All I'll say is we are not safe.
Definitely. I agree with you on that one, Patrick. Eva, you can go.
Okay. What I realized was in the first, with the first one, the one with the lady, they used manipulation to gain us unauthorized access to his account. That's what I realized. They used manipulation. That was he pretending to be his wife and having a crying baby. So meaning the phone company will even be remorseful, like they'll feel some sort of pity. And that's why they gave them access to it. So they used manipulation.
Thank you. Right on point, Eva. CSR.
Hello, Kwame.
Hi.
Can I just say that all your trainees are scary? Last week, AI, and then today, not just by the way, but
Yeah.
I think from the password to this, it's scary. Please tell us something that will not scare us.
Yeah. I mean, yes. Thank you, Debbie. And yes, these are scary times we are in, and we just need to be aware of them, because these days social engineering in our part of the world targets the individuals, the owners of the accounts or of whatever resource. But in what we just saw, the target was not even the actual owner. The target was on the service providers, and these are people that you would say go through stringent trainings with regard to security of their customers, right? And so imagine if we are in that era already where perhaps your bankers can be targeted. And I don't know about you, but I may have fallen for the request, because hearing a crying baby and she was actually voice playing as well. Her voice and everything, the breaks, everything was well calculated, because that's how social engineering actually works, So we need to be wary and we need to be cautious, right, with some of this information. And so how do we really secure ourselves? These days, we tend to share a lot of information about us everywhere. Social media, our location. Sometimes information is even collected from us without our knowledge, because we have consented to them, because we have agreed to terms and conditions of some of the apps that we use. So the caveat here is to share as little as possible, when it comes to the platform that we are on. So in other words, we need to maintain a composed digital signature, a digital self, a very, very structured and organized digital self, so that we are not oversharing information that can be used to harm us online, right? So yes, that brings us to our last topic of the day, which is data handling. So Abdullah,
Mr. Kwame,
yes,
I just want to know this our Sakao boys. Are they using this social engineering? These are Sakao boys. Are they using social engineering in this wise?
Yes, as a matter of fact, Mr. Abdullah, I think that these days that kind of situation, it's very rampant, is very frequent in our space, right? Because there are a lot of people calling you pretending to be your service providers. They'll call you pretending to be from MTN, for instance, and that they are going through some changes, so you need to send some money. There are people that can call you that they are your friend on Facebook and they are stranded at a place, so these are all forms of social engineering, right? But the level of attacking or targeting your service provider is something that I would say it's not too rampant in our region. It may be in existence, but it's not like the targeting of the actual account owners, or resource owners, if I can put it that way. But so far as it exists, we always adopt these things at a gradual pace or at a slower pace. So far as it exists out there, there's a high chance that it will definitely trickle down to us pretty soon. So we just need to be cautious about it. I hope that's clear. I wanted us to share more perspectives on that, but it seems our time is also running. And so we'll go on to data handling, as I have mentioned. Yes, so once we deal with a lot of data in our various organizations, we need to also put in measures to handle the data well, to be guided by some procedures to handle it well and also to protect our data. But to do that, we need to understand the kinds of data we have, to go through some classifications of the data that we have. And so we are going to look at data classification levels. And then once we know that, we can take the necessary steps on protecting them and to handle them. So the first data classification is what we term as public data. And this is information intended for public consumption, and it has no confidentiality or sensitivity concerns, right? So examples of this could be what? Our brochures, press releases, public websites, the data there is what? Public data. So you do not need to handle it in any special way. But this is, yes, these are the guidelines. No special handling required and can be freely shared and published. So like we have on our websites, we do events, we write blogs, and we share them on our websites. So this information is available for the public to consume. So we do not need to have any special handling requirements. The next one is internal data that exists within our organization. So it's meant for internal consumption and not external consumption. In handling internal data, the sharing should be limited within the organization, and you do not share externally unless you have approval. So that is internal data. So it's important for us to note this so that we can classify the kinds of data we have within our organizations and how we handle them in terms of sharing and in terms of access. Okay, the next one is confidential data. And this is sensitive information requiring protection to prevent unauthorized access or disclosure. Examples of these are financial records, customer information, internal policies, safeguarding policies like this. They are confidential. And so it requires some sort of protection. You don't have to share them out there unless you have approval. And in handling this, the access is restricted to authorized personnel alone. And then encryption is implemented when we want to transmit it or transfer it. And then when we want to store it, because when you are storing in the cloud, you are also transmitting the data from your system onto the cloud. So that also requires some form of encryption. And it's only shared to the people that need to know. People that actually need to know that information. Those are the people that have access to confidential data. The next level of data classification is restricted data. And this is highly sensitive data requiring strict control and protection due to legal, contractual, or ethical obligations. So these are very highly sensitive data, and they have legal consequences because they may come under contractual terms or ethical obligations. Examples of this could be medical records, and again, some financial transactions can fall under this classification as well. And also personal identification numbers could also fall under this. In handling this, access is strictly limited to individuals with explicit authorization. And then there should be strong encryption, and then access controls, stringent access controls, and then audit logging. So anyone that has access to this should be able to, go through stringent access control levels, and also logs should be audited, or logs should be kept for auditing purposes. And then the last data classification will be critical data. And this is the data with the highest level of sensitivity and potential impact if compromised. And it is often crucial for business operations. So these are handled stringent access controls as well, encryption, both at rest and in transit, so that even within the organization, not everyone can have access to it, because the data at rest is still encrypted. Limited sharing on a strict need-to-know basis. As a matter of fact, when it comes to critical data, there may be only a select few people that have access to it, and some organizations may not even have critical data. So critical data examples could be trade secrets, proprietary algorithms, so that the entire source code of, for instance, a social media platform like Facebook could fall under critical data here, so that only a few people have access to, or the trade secrets that is used by Coca-Cola, for instance. It's known to be one of the top guarded secrets in the world. And at every point in time, only about 2 or 3 people know of that recipe. So those fall under critical data, right? So the moment you are able to classify your data under these classification levels, then you would know how to handle them based on the handling guidelines that have been provided. Next, we move to the guidelines and best practices of handling your data. And the first one is access control. With the exception of public data that is accessible to everyone, any other form of data that requires some authorized access needs to have some level of control on who has access to what and at what time. And this needs to be clearly defined. So you need to implement role-based access control to ensure that only authorized individuals can access data. And then you have to also use multi-factor authentication and other authentication methods, so that whoever is accessing the data is actually the exact person. If even you have access to their credentials, you cannot access that data. So we can note this down as well. And then the next one is on encryption. As we have learned, encryption is the safest way to transfer your data through any network, because man-in-the-middle attack can occur when your data is in transit. And then there can also be a phishing attack that will install malware on your system that can target data that is already on your system. The only way to be safe is if your data is encrypted, so that they can have access to the data, but they cannot use it because it will not make meaning to them. So as you can see in this picture here, this person is sending this particular text or document, but in transit, because of encryption with this encryption key, this is the data or the content of the information. So it was sent as hello, but as it's encrypted, this is what whoever have access to it will receive. But the moment it hits the destination, then it is decrypted with a decryption key, and then it can make meaning to the recipient. So encryption is very, very important. And then data loss prevention. The moment you are handling data, there is a likelihood of data loss, which can come as a result of a lot of factors: disasters, breaches. A lot of factors can contribute to data loss. And if data loss occurs and you do not have a data loss prevention, then you are going to be a culprit, or you are going to be a victim of data loss. So it is important for you to put together some data loss prevention solutions so that you can be monitoring your data and then preventing unauthorized sharing of sensitive data. And then, very, very important for us all, just as we are doing now, training and awareness. It should be an unending activity. Just as technology is evolving by the minute, by the day, we should also be equipping ourselves. We should be embarking on trainings. We should be embarking on knowledge and sharing that knowledge that we acquire with our colleagues so that we are all on the same page. There is a saying when we are talking about technology always that we are as safe as our weakest link. 90% of the organization can be safe, but that 10%, or I dare say that 1% out of 100 that is not safe, could be the downfall of our security infrastructure. So it is very, very important that even as we are embarking on knowledge acquisition, we trickle it down to all colleagues and all staff so that we are all, at the same level when it comes to information. And then the next thing is incident response. It is also very, very important because in this day and age, there is no one organization or no one person that can say that they are unhackable. Cybersecurity 101 will show you that everybody or anybody can be hacked. So far as that is the case, you need to have a response plan in place so that in the event where you go through or you suffer a cyber attack or an information breach, you have a response plan in place. And this response plan will make sure that you have a recovery system and that you can continue running your operations and that you prevent the incident from further infecting or further causing more harm or damage. But assuming you do not have a plan and you suffer an information breach, it can go on and on and on. By the time you come up with a solution, you would have caused a lot of damage would have been caused and you would have suffered from it. So it is imperative for us to put together an incident response plan and put together a team that will help you respond to your incidents. You can look within and also without so that you have the right team with the right competence to be able to address your cybersecurity or information security incidents. So that is it. We have gone through a lot today. This is the last bit of information with regards to that. Before we go through questions, I would like to take us through some useful resources and tools that we can also benefit from. I believe we are all here as non-profit organizations or even on a broader scale as civil society organizations. And one of the major issues that we have with regards to the use of technology or the adoption of technology is access to resources or access to even the funding to acquire the resources we need. And so let me introduce you today to TechSoup. And as the name suggests, it's a very palatable soup that has a lot of tech products. So as organizations that fall under the non-profit umbrella, we can all benefit from this soup of tech products. And this tech soup, this soup of tech products provide donation of products to all non-profit organizations. All you need to do is to register with TechSoup and then you can begin enjoying from the products. There are a lot of products under this particular program. And so you visit westafrica.techsoup.global. And once you visit, you will see a products catalog that has products from tech giants like Microsoft, Bitdefender, Zoom, Tableau, Asana, a lot of them. So you can visit westafrica.techsoup.global and you can benefit from it. A lot of organizations are already benefiting from that. There are a lot of products that are available for you to benefit from. Some are donated, some you pay just about 10% of the market price just to have access to it to benefit your organization. You know, we have antiviruses there. So as we are talking about security, you can, you know, get on board and benefit from some of the antiviruses from there. The next one, still under TechSoup, is tech services that has also been introduced. And in this, there are two aspects. So technical support that seeks to address all your concerns, you know, with regards to the use of technology. And with that, we are looking at support in your installation, support to provide consultancy and advisory services to you. If you are looking to adapt or to adopt some particular technology product or service, and you need some technical advice on that, you can reach out to us and we can support you. We also have a cluster of services, tailored services, which includes web development, cloud, computing, setup and configuration. We can also provide that for you. So we have these tailored services. We also have custom trainings that we can provide in digital literacy. For instance, there's a lot still to be learned when it comes to digital literacy. And so we have tailored trainings and also to your need, whatever your need may be in technology, that is also provided under the TechSoup services platform. And you can get access to that by visiting techsoupwestafrica.org. The next one is HiveMind platform, which is particularly relevant for today's session. So it's a learning space for digital activists. And so it has a number of resources that you can actually learn from, courses and articles that you can get a lot of information with regards to digital safety and security, disinformation and misinformation, media literacy, positive narratives, and a host of others. So you can visit the HiveMind platform. Once you receive these slides, you can just click on the link in the slides and you can get to visit the platform. There are some articles in there on email security, on digital security best practices, information security that you can read and share widely with your colleagues and with your constituents as well. And then the last platform, last but not least, is on the TechSoup courses platform, also another courses platform that seeks to help us go through some of the tools that we want to use or that we want to leverage or harness in technology for our work. So it provides you resources and training on using these tools and some education for nonprofit organizations. So you can find topics on social media management, for instance, and then how you can collaborate and communicate with some of the tools like Microsoft 365, SharePoint, Microsoft Teams, and you can just have these trainings there to benefit your organizations as well. And then lastly, there is a lot that we could have covered under this training, but we could not because of time. But these two frameworks or these two resources, one on risk management and then the other on incident response plan, you can use this in your organizations to create or to develop your own risk management plan or approach. And then there's another one on incident response. This is a standardized platform that called the NIST platform, National Institute of Standards and Technology, developed in the United States by the United States Chamber of Commerce. And it is widely adopted by a lot of well-known security agencies worldwide. So it is more of, a globally accepted platform. So I encourage us all to visit the platform. And it's also very, very simple to understand and to adapt actually. So let's all try and make use of them. So there's one on risk management, and there's another on incident response plan. And as I mentioned, this brings us to the end of today's session. I really wish you could have covered more, have more practical, and more experience sharing, more examples. I do hope that you learned a lot today, but I don't know whether we have room for questions and some contributions. I will leave the floor to Farouk and for him to take over from now. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kwame. That was very impressive and insightful, right? So we've really learned a lot. As somebody said, the world is very scary with these tech issues. It means none of us is really safe. If you can just use a laptop with some image and then you have access to somebody's all detail. Well, so the floor is open, and I would like to encourage our participant organization to really make good use of this platform. So let's make good use of it by asking all the kind of questions we have. I think we still have some 30 minutes to spend with you, if you allow, right? So if we are able, we spend, or if not, we could spend less than that, and then we call it a day. So please, any question to Kwame and the tech team, just raise your hand or unmute yourself, and you just come in, and he will gladly respond to that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So as we wait, I see there are some comments in the chat. So Yakubu said it was called that money has been sent into his account. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, that is one of the ways of social engineering. And then, yes, again, there's another comment that they can render an individual bankrupt. Definitely, that is quite also common. Maybe not in our region, but out there it is. And then, yes, just a phone and a crying baby. Yeah, sometimes that's all it takes. And then Ferdinand said, just this afternoon, I received a call and message that I should change my PIN for my Momo account. Also very common within our context. Yeah. So yes, thank you very much. You can also share, your experience or what actually you gained from today's training, feedback that you gained today. How did you find the training? You can briefly share that if there are no questions.
Yes, exactly. So if there are no questions, maybe we'll have to do it on organization base, having one person from each organization to really share with us their reflection from today's engagement. Then we'll come to Axis colleagues as well. So let me start by calling out some names here, if possible. Please, am I allowed to proceed in that regard?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Well, I want to hear from one of our participants. We are shifting the power.
Yes, you can, please.
Beautiful. So I want to check with Care for Society Network. Who is here from Care for Society Network, and would like to share with us his or her impression about today's engagement on the information security.
Yeah, and briefly, Farouk, sorry, before they do, colleagues, you can feel free to put on your camera at this point if you want to. That's also allowed. Thank you.
Yeah, well, as you even said, I also shared the post evaluation survey in the chat. Let me do it again so that it's more recent. We want you to take this test. We encourage everyone to take the test, because at the end of the day, we want to see how the day really went. What was your impression? Were you satisfied with the discussion or not? And this will also help us to improve our next time engagement. So since we don't have Care for Society Network, let me go to Youth Rights International. I could see a comment from Sir David, maybe you want to hear you speaking. Then we'll take it from there. Yes, Sir David, over. Unless you are at a place where you can't speak. So let's read your comment then. David said, this is a practical and very insightful presentation. Thanks so much, Kwame. Coordination. So thank you. Then we'll go to Sudubaba Foundation. Chief Osman, yes.
Wow, so impressive. We are so happy to have a workshop like this where we've seen the importance of information security. So actually we are so much impressed. And now that we know what is going on around the world, you know, we Fulanis are always on the bush. So no, there are a lot of things that we don't know. So thank you very much. And then we'll also be happy if you can send us the whole write-up so that we can download it as a booklet to be reading at the office.
Well noted, Chief. We'll do that. Thank you so much. So let's go to Kids House Media NGO. I'm sure that's Stella. I guess Stella is still with us. Okay, while we wait for Stella to come, then we can go to Maltaba. Maltaba Women Peasant Farmers.
Hello?
Yes. Please go ahead.
Hello? Hello?
We can hear you. Anyone from Maltaba here?
Yes, please.
Please. So we want to know what's your impression and any question or any comment.
Yeah, I think this presentation has been a very resourceful one because not just in our organizations, but also in our daily life as well. At least with this, we'll know we have to be very careful. And it has also given me an insight on sometimes in some of the mails we receive in. Sometimes some even come as promotions, and I'll be like, hey, where from this promotion? You know, I didn't even apply for anything. But thanks to this presentation, at least I've gotten to understand where these emails come from.
Thank you, Eva. So we can hear from Zelda Foundation if we are there. Anyone from Zelda?
Okay, well, thank you very much. I think we've been very, very insecure, but this exposure has, given us some insights. We hope to really make something out of this workshop by putting together a information security plan for the organization. So I think I think this training has been very, very insightful. So look up to that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John, and colleagues from Zelda Foundation. Nothing needy children. Anyone from Northern Needy Children?
Yeah. I'm around. Yeah,
Okay.
we thank Kwame very much for what he has done. Actually, there are a lot of things that we didn't know, and everybody is at a risk. I think we thank him very much for the information granted. But I just want him to elaborate on this thing. How is a brute force attack made? He said, "We should remind you that that's what brute force attack." I don't know how it is. Yes. He said we should remind you so that you explain to us.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Abdullah. And then Global Eco Village Network. Anyone from Global Eco Village still with us? Maybe not yet. Then we go to Roofing Leads. Do you have anyone from Roofing Leads?
Yes, we have.
Okay.
Wow.
Good
It's very insightful and practical.
Sorry, Rufilit, can you hold on? I think Global Eco Village is here. So Kwame, yes,
Oh.
Kwame, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much for this information security also. I think it has exposed us to know some of the issues that sometimes we face. Sometimes some stomach will be sending some information, and this will help us to identify if it's a secured one or. So we are grateful for the training. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kwame, and Global Eco Village colleagues. So over to you, Ferdinand. Ferdinand from Roofing
Thank
yes.
you. Yes. Thank you very much, Kwame, and your good self, Farouk. In fact, it's very insightful. In fact, the social engineering awareness, the video has really is really serious. It's like you are you are well dressed, but you are naked. Thank you very much. We'll put it into practice and really also share with our colleagues in our offices. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ferdinand. And then last organization is Savannah Queens Mothers Association. I don't know if you have anyone from Savannah Queen Mothers Association still with us. Okay. So once again, I'm reminding us to take the post-training test. Help us to improve this training next time. So Candle feel it, including Waxy staff. All of us, let's share our feedback, our impression about this so that the facilitator and the team will take note of it for going forward. So Kwame, would you want to give the answer to the question and just wrap up with any last comment from your end? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Farouk. Yes, and so yes, brute force attack is actually an attack that is carried out on a computer with a particular software. What this does is it tries to log into a system with multiple login attempts. And it acquires this by a combination of dictionary words, frequently used passwords that are easily guessable. That is why I mentioned that if you use passwords that are weak, a brute force attack is likely to penetrate into your system. So brute force attack is a software and it's available on the dark web, right? Where you can go and have access to it. And then you can log in, enter the website that you want to try to log in. Assuming you have a username of a person, you do not know the password. You go onto the brute force platform on the dark web. You enter, let's say the account is on gmail.com. You enter gmail.com. You already have the username, so you enter it there. And then you allow brute force to try multiple times, several times, thousands of times within a second, using a combination of words with a special algorithm just to try to penetrate. And so if you are using a very common password, a simple password like guest 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, those are the ones it actually tries first. Dictionary words, save 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I love you 1, 2, 3. Those ones is very easy for brute force to be able to penetrate. So it's actually a software that resides on the dark web. I saw another question from Eva. How do we protect information which are not on computer from being tampered with? So we are talking about non-digital information. Yes, you can put them in secure safes in your offices. Those are the physical ones, the ones on papers, and you actually use access control methods to minimize who has access to the safe, so that it's also easy for you to track and to monitor and keep access logs for auditing purposes. So that is one way that you can do with physical data. You always have to confine them in a space, so That is it. Either you're using a secure safe lock or a secured room that you can keep your files there. So that is it. And I do not see any question there. And Farouk, you mentioned I could just wrap up. So yes, first of all, thank you all for coming here for us to discuss the perspectives, the experiences that you shared were really great. I actually learned from it, and I believe that we have all learned something today. One thing that I want to emphasize on is that information security is an ongoing process. In other words, it's never ending. One, because these attackers are coming up with complex and sophisticated methods of accessing our files and intruding into our systems each and every day. There are newer versions of their approaches and processes. And so we also need to equip ourselves with new skills and knowledge on what they are doing so that we can be safe. So it's very, very important for us to do so. And these attacks do not end. There are times that they just sit and launch them, like casting your net on the sea, just to find that fish that will be lured up to acquire. We have a system in place that we use in our organization to fish out or to block access to phishing emails from targeting colleagues' inboxes. And you wouldn't believe that in the space of about 3 months, we have been able to block about 5,000 phishing emails. So that should tell you that these emails are, coming every now and then, every second. So the question is, if you are in an organization and you do not have this in place yet, what does that mean to your colleagues? You actually put a lot of burden on them. So in as much as we are also acquiring knowledge, we should actually act on the knowledge we are acquiring. So for instance, today we have learned about phishing emails. We know that there's a level that we can actually block access to some of them from even hitting our inboxes. We need to take some of these actions to, make sure that we are safe and secured. So yes, once again, thank you. And let's keep the conversation alive. You can reach us on our contact details. I'm sure Farouk can also share our contact details with you. You can reach out to TechSoup for all your technology needs and all your questions on technology, and we'll be happy to answer you. Thank you very much and have a nice and wonderful evening. Thank you, Farouk. Over to you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Kwame.
Thank you very much, Kwame. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
So please remember to take the evaluation test.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's in the chats. Please, I'm resharing it again.
Okay, please share it so it makes it.
Oh my Farouk, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Kwame.
Thank you, Kwame.